everybody, this is Rydo and we are back with another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Wednesday, May 16th. We started very late, so I'm into my third recording of the day, and we've got just a ton of news and a small amount of daily quests. We've flipped the script a little bit in the past week or so of just having more daily, more news than daily quests, where before it was very much struggling to get daily quests done, and we may still struggle. I have to get 3 victories with a druid or warrior and play 12 minions that cost 5 or more. But I'm on my American account, so I've already done Asian and European accounts. What is the victories we needed? Let's see. Druid or Hunter, and I imagine I have something here. There's a Beast 5+ Druid right there. There we go. First one. First game we have on Steam is called I Pay No Rent. Action indie casual sports RPG. It says it seems like it's an asset flip game. Is this even in English? It's in English simplified and traditional Chinese, so it is an asset flip done Chinese style, from a developer who's made nothing else. It's a VR game. Let's see. Seems like it requires VR, so it's already out. It's 40% off for $2.39, which is to say it's the cheapest of low quality VR style games. And let's see, what do we want to play? Inherently, all this is they've put a different spin on standing in the same place in VR and having somebody attack you. So for this time, it's the landlady throwing items at you and you're trying to punch them backwards. So they actually have thought of something interesting, but they've put it in a very odd way and just kind of low quality way. Like, you could slightly have an interesting idea of a landlady character who's mad at you because you're not paying her rent, certainly, but that's kind of only a character. That's a 5-minute joke scene. That's not a full game. And the items around the room and the animation style is just weird and odd, and this looks cartoony. So I don't know if maybe this is based off of something else. Interesting, the publisher is labeled as L&L Technology. I click on that. There are no games on Steam being published by that name, which is to say that the publisher was denied even existing.
This will be good.
I guess that's a weird way of phrasing that, but this game, they've already been forced to change the information into something else. Yeah, again, a low effort Chinese game, not as bad as some of the low effort Western games, but certainly not worth people's time either.
Job's done.
Let's see. Moving on. Gematsu has an article of Korean shoot 'em up Shin Hondo Soul Eater is coming to PS4. Let's see, Shin Hondo Soul Eater was first released on PC October 2017. It was developed by Korean studio Deer Farm. Let's watch the trailer and see what this looks like. It's a shoot 'em up game, so Like, yes, I could go to the Steam page and talk about it, and I'll look to see what the review is. It looks kind of interesting, but I mean, don't they all? Let's see. It's SHINKHONDO. I mispronounced it there. Apologies for that. So they're very positive, 86 of 97 reviews. So it is, from a shoot 'em up perspective, very much liked. But also I have to remind myself that shoot 'em up games are just not for me. So I may even wishlist this one because it does kind of have an interesting take on it. It's not just robot girls flying around shooting things. This is more of a traditional Japanese
what if
monsters, which I would suspect might be Shin in that name.
My will is not my own.
So yeah, I'm gonna wishlist this game, but honestly, if I ever got around to playing it, it's gonna be 5 minutes. 5 minutes of experience just to spotlight it, and then I'd probably never play it again. But if you're a fan of shoot 'em ups, this one looks good, and the fact that it's coming to a console certainly also tells you that. Coming to PS4, and it's always nice to see a Korean company do a nice release, because they're certainly usually Korean companies do very simplistic releases that are alright, but they're not quite good enough. They're very middle of the road releases, so I'd like to see them become slightly better quality releases. Of course, there's certainly a lot of people different. I'm not liking that when I have this hero replacement skin, the hero power changes. It seems kind of pointless and distracting.
The scourge will devour all.
Let's see. Stalker 2 was announced. It's due out in 2021. That is a quite long time. The first Stalker game came out in 2007, and the latest release was 2009, so they must have done like a remake of Stalker. It's poisonous, and then +3 health. Then we'll take this, play that in the turn. So you're talking 12 years difference. That's, at that point, you probably should just, it should be a soft reboot. It seems really crazy that it would be a direct storyline sequel, and that you would require somebody to play something from 12 years ago to continue. It's as if Mario Odyssey would have required you to play Super Mario Brothers 1, or just Mario Brothers even. That would have been a ridiculous concept. You need to be playing higher mana cost characters, so I should have played this. Actually, definitely should have played that. Anyways, moving on. Next game we have is called Gravity Light. It's one of these laser neon light games. 30% off of 69 cents. No reviews, surprise, surprise. It's a platformer for the most part. It's from a developer who made one other game. And I don't think that there's really anything here to say. And there's actually 2 developers that listed on this game, and the second developer has made a lot more games, but it's about 1/3 good rated, 1/3 bad rated, and 1/3 negative, neutrally rated games. But anytime I see one of these neon colors, these neon colored games, it seems like there's way too many of them, and you're definitely not even trying to stand out visually. While neon signs would have been amazing and looked really cool when they first were invented, and that's why there was a lot of neon signs when they first did come out, even in the real world of the United States at least, there aren't too many neon signs. You'll get maybe an open neon sign, but most stores, most restaurants, most things don't have neon signs. If you're gonna try and catch somebody's attention, you might have a digital screen doing a lot better graphics. So if neon doesn't work for the signage that was originally used for, it definitely does not work for video games. There's been way too many of those. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. Discord now boasts 130 million users, 85 more than a million than 1 year ago. So I recently saw a chart on how long it took some services to get up to 150 million. Discord in particular is taking its time. I don't know what you really get from that, because Discord isn't, it really isn't something like Twitter or Facebook, where in theory at least all of those users are trying to be in one connected service. Discord is more of a discrete program like Skype, and where if Skype said it had over 1 billion users, that really doesn't mean anything to any end user who is actually using Skype, because there's like nothing to that. That doesn't really mean anything. You're not talking to 130 million users on Discord. You're very possibly not using Discord at all, but if you are, you're using it in a very very limited way. Discord, I think, has a slight problem in that it is advertised itself as this gamers chat app that then has a hard time selling itself to people who are not gamers, and it's not centric enough or easy enough to use, frankly, to get a lot of people, including myself, to use it. I set up a Discord server. Nobody uses it. I don't use it as just an experiment, and I still don't fully understand how I could integrate it into just day-to-day usage and workflow. Other than the fact that maybe I should force everybody to follow me on something like Discord, so then I could tweet out when every video comes out. But then I would much prefer people just go to Twitter and do that, frankly. Even if you hate Twitter and don't want to use it, you're much better off following me on Twitter than you are subscribing to my channel on YouTube, or you can follow me on Facebook, and that's the same as Twitter. But following me on Discord seems like a very specific and special action you'd have to take that doesn't make a lot of sense. Of course, I do know that there is a small niche of people that love Discord, and good for them, but I suppose Discord might be the beginning of the replacement of things like NeoGAF and Reddit, where if you're just tired of being on these giant sites and giant forums. You can be on slightly smaller forums. Moving on, PC Gamer has an article. House Flipper is like Viscera cleanup detail only for super gross houses. So it's Viscera cleanup detail is a game that I do want to play, but I don't know if I'm ever really going to have time for it.
Ishnu Allah, Archdruid.
But this looks like it's taking a lot of house assets and then placing layers of dust and dirt and mud and grime on elements, and then you're just waving around in a very poorly animated fashion, you're waving around a broom, and it's just making the textures disappear, which is what Viscera cleanup detail basically was too, but at least in Viscera cleanup detail it's a smooth action that's animated well, and Viscera cleanup detail has that online group aspect to it that I think that adds a lot to it. I don't think you particularly want to play Viscera cleanup detail alone. These houses are trashed houses, rather trash, but the floor is the limit for trashing a house, because the people do certainly trash them. Let's see, that apparently there's insects too, and I'm not sure you want to play a game where you're vacuuming up insects, or probably roaches. This is just going to trigger anybody with any kind of phobias. Germophobia, insectophobia. At a certain point you repaint the walls in this house. Frankly, this is not what house flippers do, in my opinion, because house flippers pay somebody else to do all this work, and they just invest the money. That's arguably a good thing. I guess they're job creators, but it's also a bad thing because they're usually exploiting cheap labor as much as possible. And inherently, part of the problem with house flippers is that they only do the surface level things to make the house sell. They're not restoring a house to a strong, sturdy foundation where it will be a good investment for the person who eventually repurchases that house to live in for 30 years. Ideally, all home ownership should be based around living at least 30 years, if not the rest of your life, in it. And if you're just owning a house for a few months as you try to flip it, you're speculating and gambling on properties that are too expensive to have that. Apparently you can also sledgehammer walls and make new openings.
Let's see.
These are the kind of houses that you would buy at auction, sight unseen, and you still probably wouldn't.
This'll be good.
Even at ridiculously lowered auction prices, you still probably wouldn't be making much profit on them. I can almost see this game as an attempt at a house decorating software, which certainly there are some of those out, like a house building, house decorating software. But as it seems right now, this long article from, I imagine, PC Gamer for this game seems like it's too early access. I'd much prefer to play. Yes, it is a PC Gamer article. I'd much prefer to play Viscera Cleanup Detail.
The circle of life is over.
Let's see. Because Viscera Cleanup Detail is funny and silly and not sad, frankly. Moving on, next game we have on Steam is called Splitter Critters. It says it's an indie game. I think I've seen this game. I think Giant Bomb covered this, where you're splitting the screen and basically doing lemmings. It looks good. 10% off for $6.29. It was a PAX game. It has 2 positive reviews. You have to kind of know what you're getting into here. That it's a puzzle game. It's the first game from this developer, but it's animated well enough with a kind of flat, cartoony animation style. It could be also that the controls aren't amazingly good, but they seem alright. So, in the spirit of trying to move forward quickly, as I'm also not really playing too many cards that I need to play for the daily quest, I'm gonna just wishlist Splitter Critters and move on to the next thing. Next game is Color by Numbers Dinosaurs, which, to be fair, this looks fine. I'm not sure you really need a Color by Numbers game on PC. It's 15% off for $4.24. The question is, how many pictures are there? This is like a kindergarten-esque game. There are no reviews for it, and there would be no real reason for me to play this game. But it looks fine. It may be a mobile port, but if it is, it's being done very well. And it's nice and bright and colorful. Here's one screen. It may only have 20 pictures, which is a slight concern. But I imagine that's kind of typical for kids games too. This is the only game from this developer. You can't really say anything bad about it. Know what you're getting into. It seems like it's done well. Maybe there is some kind of RPG Maker-esque engine that makes color by numbers things. There's actual math in this, in which you have to figure out what the right number is in some of it. So it's, instead of just saying color 5 in a box, it might say 3 plus 2 in the box. So they're actually trying to educate in turn. This doesn't look like a game that's gonna take a creepy twist or anything to it. It has a free demo. It's nice to see early kids learning software on Steam whenever it happens, even though it all generally tends to be pretty simplistic. Next game we have is a game called ZW, which looks like it's a top-down tool-stick shooter with a terrible interface. I would assume this is a just low quality, extremely low quality game. I'm gonna get away from calling them fake games, but it definitely looks like an extremely low quality game. And it's the first game from this developer. And not a very good name either, Z.W. Let's see. Next game we have is called Fadeholm, F-A-D-E-H-O-L-M. Early access action adventure RPG with replay value, says the tags. It is a first-person dungeon crawler, as best I can tell, designed in VR. We've seen several of these. This one looks as good as perhaps as many several of the other ones. It's still not great. It seems like every time they come out with a VR dungeon crawler game, it's just one step above the last one. There's no reviews, and I imagine that is because it's a massively expensive $19.99.
Let's see.
And frankly, in an effort to save time, and just because I know it's VR, there's really no reason for me to like go into too much detail on it, because I know I'm not gonna buy it. Even if I got a VR headset for free tomorrow, I would still wait. Inherently, the dungeon crawler genre isn't super popular, so putting that in VR doesn't really add anything to it to make it super popular. Let's see. Next game we have is this it looks like a low quality one screen asteroid-esque shooter game. It says it's an action adventure game. Let's see. Lose 1 health for each card your opponent's hand. Okay. So this game is called Space Hodsola, HODSOLA, whatever that stands for. It is really expensive at $3.99. It has no reviews, and this is a bordering low quality game. It's being published by a publisher who publishes mostly good games. They publish a lot, but the developer, this is their first game.
Let's see.
Well, I suppose the way Steam shows things, as long as you have that first page as full of highly rated games, you could also publish a considerable amount of negative and mixed reviewed games that would just be put down on the second page. And so that might be their trick here, is that this is a mediocre game at best, but it doesn't matter, it's not going to affect the publisher's listing. I retweeted a official YouTube blog from YouTube advertisers. It was more information, faster removals, more people, an update on what we're doing to enforce YouTube's community guidelines. So without even reading this and getting upset, which I might just decide to
let's see.
might just decide to save myself some frustration and not read all of this, because you know it's not going to say anything from my perspective that I'm gonna want to hear or like. The idea of YouTube removing content, for the most part, is a negative idea. It's not something that I want. Yes, I agree that there is some content that needs to go, but I heavily keep hearing about incidences of content that should have stayed getting removed. So the bullet points here are: we removed over 8 million videos from YouTube during these months. 6.7 million were first flagged for review by machines rather than humans. So the vast majority, the vast majority of all videos that were removed not because any human on the planet found them offensive at all, just because they were removed by machines.
Not quite
and furthermore, a terrible statement on the algorithm here is 76% of the 6.7 million were removed before they even got a single view. Nobody even saw the videos and they were removed. So are those 6.7 million videos illegal terrorist videos and Elsa Gate videos and things like that? Or are these 6.7 million videos that were just content creators trying to make something interesting and they weren't even given a chance?
Lunara versus Gul'dan.
Your soul shall be mine.
Let's see.
The forest fights back.
Percentage of videos taken down for violent extremisms by views at the takedown. This is interesting too. For 2017 quarter one, the violent extremist videos were getting at least 100 views a lot more often than they are now. But what does that really mean? Is this a good thing? Honestly, this is, I think, a bad thing. Honestly, because if a terrorist is putting up a video, 100 plus views could just be 100 news reporters. It could be people interested in it could be counter spies, counter terrorist agencies looking at them. Now less information very potentially is going to counter terrorist agencies and news reporters because YouTube has found a way to utterly silence them, so that now the terrorists are in the shadows. Now we don't know what they're planning. Now we very possibly are in more danger.
Job's done.
So why is that a good thing? Why not just wait until somebody flags it? Why is it so important for things to get removed before even a person sees it? The next paragraph says the value of people plus machines, and then they're linking to this video that was really offensive, frankly, called The Life of the Flag that they made, and it's like, why in the world would you even bother to make that video? Let's see.
What if?
So yeah, that whole YouTube blog doesn't really, it wouldn't mean much to me as a content creator. I don't know if it really means anything to advertisers either. Maybe it makes the advertisers very happy to say, oh, we guarantee you now, or we're improving our algorithm, so we guarantee that you're not going to be on extremist videos. And really, that entire blog is a response to the complaint of terrorist videos, and just terrorist videos, that was made like 2 years ago. Not anything that has happened since at all. PC Gamer has an article. Hearthstone nerfs confirmed. Warlock, Paladin, and Quest Rogue all getting the hammer. Spiteful Summoner and Nagasi Witch also changed as part of the balance patch. Let's see. This isn't a really great way to say this. Nagasi Witch will cost 8 mana up from 5. Spiteful Summoner will cost 7 mana up from 6. Dark Pact will restore 4 health down from 8. Possessed Lady will cost 6 up from 5. Call to Arms will cost 5 up from 4. And Crystal Score will be changed to say all minions become 4/4s once the quest is complete, down from 5/5s. Which I think I would argue Crystal Core being nerfed is an alright nerf. I don't know if I particularly complain against any of the Hearthstone nerfs. Do whatever you've got to do just to make Hearthstone a better game. If you just have to throw spaghetti at the wall until you find the right balance, do it. Here I have this tweet storm from Randy Pitchford that is like 1 of 7 things, and I'm trying to scroll through here and see what he's really talking about. I think he's talking about Todd Robbins, which I believe is a magician, since Randy Pitchford was a magician. And yeah, he goes on
Let's
for
see.
6 tweets, and I don't think any of it has to do with Gearbox. Okay, fine. I don't have to read that then. And apparently, Randy Pitchford's banner art is a Pro Evolution banner. Which, okay.
Time goes short.
Again, probably not super professional
This'll be
to
good.
be the CEO of a company and have controversial topics unrelated to your business as your banner art. Or, I mean, he could talk about magicians if he wants to, but again, I would try to stay on topic. I'd have a secret personal Randy Pitchford Twitter handle, and I would have the CEO of Gearbox Twitter handle. It would be public. Moving on, we have a game called War Heroes Invasion. So this is a strategy indie tower defense game. It's just a tower defense game. $8.99. Wow, somebody actually got the game for free and recommended it, and some people actually are paying money for it. Do you really have to pay through the nose? It has 5 positive reviews. Do you have to pay that much to get a good tower defense game because there's just such an industry of poor quality ones? Do that. There's nothing wrong with this game. It has an all-time peak of 16 players. It's a tower defense game that's really, really expensive. And it's the first game from this developer, so it's asking a lot, and they're self-publishing. Yeah. I have to assume that they've really painted themselves into a bad corner here by making a tower defense game as your first release and then asking for a large amount of money. Maybe, honestly, a fair amount of money, the amount of money that they would actually need, but also just the amount of money that nobody is going to be willing to pay.
Job's done.
Yeah, I just lost. I should have.
Well played.
Yeah, I guess I'm not gonna wishlist War Heroes Invasion. Maybe that company will make enough money so that they can move on to their next thing. There we go. We finally played enough of the expensive cards, so I can now just play some standard play of Hunter, and I need to get some victories, and I'd like them to be ranked victories. PC Gamer has an article. Valve now lets you map your own custom controller bindings in Steam VR, which I would have assumed that was available to do in day one. That seems really, really late to be introducing that feature. And very possibly Valve is collecting data on how you map the controllers so they can decide what people on average actually want, which is probably a very good question. Next game we have on Steam is Little Witch Academia Chamber of Time. I've had my eye on this game. This is the Netflix funded anime kids show and video game spin-off of it. So it's got a very Ghibli-esque polish to it. It's something I definitely would want to get around to playing. as an RPG. In comparison to many other RPGs from smaller companies, this would probably be something that would be better to play. It has an all-time peak of 199 and it came out May 15th. It has tons of language supports. The main problem with it I can see is it's $39.99. Not going for a full $60 game, but most definitely not also looking for a real amount of big money for a AAA product, not a small indie product. Sadly, the very first review I see is not recommended. 2 hours into this game and it's more than obvious what a soulless and engaging experience this game provides. I'm a big fan of the Little Witch Academia show, and see, you could certainly have a problem here with any kind of anime or TV show tie into the game. The game might be a disappointment. I'm a big fan of the Little Witch Academia show, but I also understand budget anime tie-in games. I didn't go into this with the highest of hopes. I imagine canned animation, simplistic dungeon designs, and a lot of text. Let's go ahead and not play this. Let's instead, can we play this and this? Simple as dungeon designs and a lot of text boxes instead of voice acting and cutscenes. Things like this I could deal with in the game if the game was still engaging or at least had some charm behind it. Instead, I was met with what felt like most bare minimum effort that could have been pushed into a release. The game is split up into two drastically different gameplay modes. They're so different in terms of gameplay and quality. It feels like two completely different teams worked on them. More than likely that is the case, and they were mashed together into one game. The adventure mode has Akko running around on Luna Nova, talking to characters, exploring the school environment and finding quests and objectives. The school is littered with cookie-cutter NPCs, awkward camera angles, and for whatever reason a complete lack of sound effects. You won't hear so much as a footstep while running through the halls, and it gives the game an incredibly empty, dead feeling. It's unsettling at best and downright boring at worst. Yeah, this sounds like an unfinished game if there's no audio in it. That's unacceptable. While it's nice to see the location fans will recognize from the show, none of it feels satisfying when it all feels so empty. Exploring wasn't fun, but nothing quite felt like a chore either. I can't think of any other words to describe the adventure mode but empty. The dungeon crawling half of the game is a slightly different story. You get to pick and choose from 7 of the show's characters from your party, with 2 of them being AI controlled while the third being directly controlled by you. Running around feels more responsive than the adventure gameplay, but the list of positives seems to end about there. Each character gets a light, medium, and heavy attack. Blah 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 blah. Let's skip down this. Next paragraph. The game feels like a budget $20 game, but charging $40 for it turns the experience into a huge disappointment. If the game were broken, glitchy, or difficult to play mode, feel let down that the game could have been potentially better. Instead, I feel like I was giving the full potential of a bland, boring idea that just leaves me uninterested to play more. Interesting. Let's play that. And then there's several positive reviews, but that long negative review seems to be right. And there's 70 positive reviews and 5 negative reviews, and I'm very much Very much believing the 5 negative reviews. So here's one of the problems with the review system on Steam is that if you wanted a company to suffer, you could write 5 negative reviews on a game, and that's all it would take to beat about 100 positive ones. What to do about this? I kind of believe it that the main issue with Netflix and getting into anime, and it's been very obvious and consistent. Neo Yoko is a great example. Now, their most recent releases do seem to be moving a little bit away from this, is that they were funding a lot of people that didn't have the qualifications to be making products. And if I was to watch the Little Witch Academia series and compare it to some other animes of similar class, I imagine it would not be quite as good. I don't know if you really even want to call it or compare it to animes as much as you would just want to compare it to a kid's cartoon shows, which is mostly what Netflix wants. This is the first game on Steam from this developer, and the publisher is Bandai Namco. And I mean, you can't really go negative around that Bandai Namco, because they've got like Dark Souls and Dragon Ball Fighters, and they've published lots of things. So I guess what I have to do is just wishlist this game and keep an eye on it, but remember that there's potentially some problems with it. Although, to be fair, you just look at the general reviews, it's very positive. 91% of 57 user reviews. So maybe it's for kids, and when the kids play it, they don't see the problems that an adult gamer or a hardcore anime fan of the Little Witch Academia series would see. That certainly could be the case. I imagine the Transformer games back when they were available for purchase were pretty popular amongst kids who were into Transformers, and nowhere is near popular amongst hardcore Transformer fans who were adults. So we have to temper our expectations a little bit there. And besides, right now I'm playing Lego Star Wars The Force Unleashed, and I'm probably not going to play another Lego game for a very long time, if ever, on PC. Because of how buggy those games are. So any kids game that's even moderately playable is worth considering. Moving on, we have a free-to-play game apparently called Stormbound, a tactical gameplay card collection with gorgeous arts. It says free-to-play strategy card game. The art style seems to work with a 4x5 grid, where I guess you're using these really tall and skinny cards to play characters and place them. Compared to Hearthstone here, where the grid is a 7x7 grid, I would say, no, 7x2 grid. 4x4 seems like a slightly different thing. A back row and a forward row and a middle row idea would be the concept. It's free to play, which means it probably has microtransactions in it. The real problem with this is, even though it probably is an alright game to play, it's just not going to it's not going to get people's attention. I mean, If you're gonna go away from Hearthstone, you basically right now have only one choice, and that's playing Artifact when it comes out. I don't think anything else gets anywhere close to being a reasonable option. The first negative review says, I've been playing this game for 3 seasons on the mobile version. Long story short, it's another free-to-play, pay-to-win game that has great potential but simply refuses to escape this model. It's worth the hour of playtime, but unless you want to splash out, I'd advise not this game.
What to do?
Next not recommended says, I played on mobile. You use a credit card to play this game. If you're someone with all level 1 cards, there's no way you're going to beat someone with level 2 cards unless they're stupid. Stay away from CCG credit card games, not to be confused with collectible card games. Nice pun there, but it needs a better delivery. Let's see, has this developer made anything else? They made Mo Manga Pinball Adventures, which is a mixed review game. It's just like a pinball adventure game. You know what? I might actually wishlist this and see how this is if we get it on sale. It's probably not great. Let's see what. What can we play right there?
Job done.
From this. What are the negatives of this pinball adventures game? Broken physics would ruin the most charming pinball game in existence. Pinball adventure games don't need real physics. They don't simulate the real thing. The genre is mostly centered around exploring multiple areas through some crazy level designs, doing all kinds of busy work along the way. Intractable minigames, collectibles. Here's the thing. Sonic's Pinball, Mario Pinball, even Pokemon, they don't have real physics, but they were consistent and balanced and functional at times. That makes 3 things Mo Manga fails at. Okay. This. And do this. And do this. This. And that. And return. Yep, sadly it looks like this game also from the developer just doesn't play well enough. A good idea, but the physics are just too broken and nobody wants to play a broken physics pinball game. Also, why am I specifically looking at developers' older games when I've got so much news still to cover? So much. Here's an easy one called Cube the Jumper that looks like garbage. 40% off for $1.19. Who cares of the reviews? I'm just gonna say immediately it looks like garbage. It's just like pixel art, Commodore-esque level art. First game from the developer. I'm not even gonna bother to go any further than that and just close it. I think I've got to learn to just move forward. If a game looks like garbage, I just need to finish it. Let's do this. Okay, well then we've got a victory. Next game we have is called Omen Sight. Wasn't this the game we already covered? I guess not. I could have sworn we had already played a game that sounded very similar to Omen Sight. Already looked at a game. We're at 2,000 gold right now. And we've got all the daily quests done, and we just got tons of news. So let's just keep on playing ranked. So Omen Sight is positive, 86% of 43 reviewers. It says it's an action indie adventure RPG fantasy game. That is a lot of things. And I believe it's true. Also, I think I saw somebody talking about this on an article, and it was like a time manipulation game, sort of. Time traveling in the story. 10% off for $17.99, so it's a pretty expensive game. But it seems like you're paying for quality, and we never really want to lose sight that it is probably better to have 100 good games on your Steam account than 900 terribly low quality games on your Steam account, which honestly I think maybe I am closer to having 900 bad games in my collection versus 100 good ones. I'm probably, personally, I'm probably closer to 50-50. Rock Paper Shotgun has an article, The Curious Expedition Demo Ventures First. This is an article about a game that is, I think, already available for $15 on Steam. Yes, it is. So they just released a demo for a game that already exists, and it's rated very positive, 86 of 26 reviews, $14.99, pretty expensive. It's a adventure pixel graphics roguelike strategy game. Seems like you are definitely explorers going to different areas. And it's an interesting one, so just because of its uniqueness, I'm gonna wishlist that. And that next one, we have a game called Arakion, Arakion, Book 1. As I've said many times before, don't buy games that are unfinished, and a Book 1 is a direct indication that the game is unfinished. It's 10% off for $17.99. It's an early access RPG adventure game. It looks relatively pretty, but also it looks like the graphics are lacking some polish. Maybe they are from a mix of asset flips. It seems like it's like goat-headed creatures and dryads, and so it's going with some of those mystical creatures that you're playing as or talking to. And it seems like every screenshot you have 3 characters at the bottom of the screen taking up a decent amount of space, telling you their life bars and their weapons, but every screenshot also seems to be a floating camera where you don't see any enemies, and like, so why do they need weapons? It feels like a very unfinished game. And even if Book 1 was finished, it's kind of nowhere close to being to the entire series being finished. They say the core of Arakion is based on the Blobber RPGs. With that said, Arakion takes inspiration from many games including Might and Magic, Dark Cloud, Dungeon Master, and many more to create a unique experience. Let's see. There's 3 positive and 1 negative. Yeah, this just feels like it's more of an asset flip than a game right now. It could be a game at some point. It doesn't feel like it's specifically designed just to rip off people, but it also doesn't feel like it's a finished product. Right, let's do this. And this. And the next game we have is called Wizard of Legend. Action indie adventure roguelike. Top-down fast-paced hack and slash game. This looks really fast-paced, and because of that, it looks really, really good. This one definitely has my attention, so it's going to get wishlisted, even though it's not on sale. It's $15.99. Let's see. The first review is not recommended. I bought this game on Switch and spent money of most of my time playing it there. It's only been 5 hours in total. However, I already feel like I've seen everything I can and can give an honest opinion, and it just keeps going on and on. Let's see if there's a do not too long didn't read, because this is several paragraphs. To summarize, Wizard of Legend is not a bad game by any means. However, there's not enough game there to have a good time. Interesting, because I'm getting a different feeling from that, and I usually don't contradict people who have actually played the game. The result is unfortunately a game that has incredible potential to be the next classic of roguelike genres among the likes of Nuclear Throne or Enter the Gungeon, but does not realize that potential at all. It was wasted by not providing players enough content to enjoy for longer than a couple of hours. I hope the developers will continue to improve the game and make it into a great game it deserves to be, and that I can recommend it one day. I'd be really sad if they didn't, because I want to play more of this. And see, that is one of the worst reviews you could possibly ever get as a game developer, when somebody wants you to succeed and it just doesn't, and you just didn't, and they want more. I don't think video games particularly should leave them wanting more as much as movies or music. I think video games are very much built around leave them satisfied. See, this is the first game from this developer, and it's not on sale. And when you have somebody saying the game seems like it doesn't have enough content and it's not on sale, that doesn't work well. But this trailer really is selling me. So I'm still going to wishlist Wizard of Legend. By far, it is 85% of 303 user reviews, so if I'm gonna bow to the mob, I would agree with that. I do think this probably would be a shorter experience, which might be okay for me, honestly. Like, I've played enough roguelike games in the past where I don't need to spend really extreme amounts of time playing roguelike games over and over again. A briefer experience is good. Next game we have on Steam is Forgotten Hand. It has gotten a lot of coverage, so we don't have to cover it too much. Suffice it to say, it is 94% of 16 users positive. Came out May 15th. It has that Ghibli-esque animation to it. I think for as much as it's being published by Square Enix, by the way, at the developers Throughline Games, which they haven't done anything else. It's 10% off for $17.99. I think critics are going to have to come back and say, alright, this isn't the best game ever like we were hyping it, but it's still a positive game. There's no way I wouldn't be wishlisting this game and wanting to play it just for the animation alone. And I hope it is the new standard for doing animation for games like this. I hope it raises the bar. It has a Metacritic review of 79, so that is higher than average. And it's available, finished, and ready to play, so that is definitely a game I'd want to get either now at the Steam Summer Sale. Probably is only going to be 10% off at the Steam Summer Sale, if even that much. You're probably not going to get a major discount for quite a while.
From my side. My pack will hunt you down.
Interesting, this one gives your other minions rush, but if you have charge trumps rush, so you can still attack the hero. Gamatsu has an article, Metro Exodus has been delayed to Q1 2019. Metro Exodus was previously announced at the last E3. Let's see, Koch Media was the parent company of Deep Silver who was going to publish Metro Exodus, and that Koch Media was acquired by THQ Nordic, so that may have slowed some things down. THQ Nordic also announced that Deep Silver will publish In Exiles Entertainment's developed RPG Wasteland 3 and The Bard's Tale 4. So that doesn't feel like that is a major shift or major delay. It is right along the level of things I have complained about before. Video game developers pushing back release dates. I'm much happier for them to push back release dates than for them to release a game that is unfinished and buggy, but neither one of those are particularly great solutions. Next article we have, Sea of Thieves has disabled the new private cruise feature because of server instability. I don't care about Sea of Thieves, I don't think many people do, so I'll just leave that article at that. We have a game on Steam called Present for Manager, which looks kind of like Monopoly. What languages is it in? It's only in Russian, so this is probably just a Russian knockoff of a Monopoly game. It doesn't look great, and frankly Tabletop Simulator still exists, so why would you want to play this there? This is the only game from that company, and it's $1.99. Maybe if you speak Russian and love that board game that I guess is called Present for Manager, that might interest you, but I think most people won't be interested. I have so many thumbnails right now. I don't see a way I'm going to finish all of this news today. And frankly, I don't know how I'm going to finish it all on Friday unless we get a major drought of video games coming out between now and Friday. I'm also not going to win this. PC Gamer has an article, you're a carrot warrior in the board game inspired dungeon crawler Verdungeon, Verdungeon. Seems like it's just a dungeon crawler game that, frankly, that seems like all this is. Maybe it has an interesting dice rolling mechanic on top of it. Verdungeon is coming out late 2018 or early 2019, so it's not even... This is another one of those PC Gamer articles talking about a game that hasn't even come out yet. Maybe if I had some extra time I would have gone through articles like all the articles and decided which ones were worth talking about and which ones weren't. Let's play Murloc. Gamatsu has an article, why procedural levels were better than the handmade ones for City of Brass. I feel like City of Brass failed, and pretty much at every point it was showed it was just kind of uninteresting. So
Thrall versus Anduin.
The light shall bring victory.
For Doomhammer.
So this is just an article opinion piece on Gamasutra, because Gamasutra lets developers of video games put out their own blogs and opinion pieces, and it's mostly related to an hour-long video, so we can kind of skip that. I think City of Brass probably would have done better as a single-player experience, where it was a very big, like Metroid Prime-esque world that was completely designed to be, or maybe not even Metroid Prime is a good example. Maybe it should have been closer to something like Mirror's Edge. Something where you knew where you were going to start and you were going to work all the way to the center of the city and then you'd have to work all the way out. Gamasutra has a job listing for 505 Games as a senior producer. That's Calabasas, California. 505 Games, I believe, is the company that worked on... I'll click on the name just to be certain, but pretty sure 505 Games worked on the Halo series.
There's little time.
Have to go. Well, can't. Their website doesn't even work on that link. Maybe not. Maybe that isn't the Halo series, but whatever. We already talked about the Hearthstone nerfs coming, so we don't need to talk about them again. Gamasutra has an article, 7 games worth studying for their excellent sound design. That's an article I might read later. But sound, particularly, sound is its own specialties, because there's music placement, music production, there's sound effects, there's voice acting. There's a lot in sound, probably more than you would even think compared to video, because, well, there is a lot in video too, as far as artistic style, artistic ability, backgrounds, foreground, shadowing, lighting. You can just go on and on and on. Both of which, both sound and visuals, get mashed down into some simplistic things. And even as a critic myself, I for the most part have to mash audio and visuals down to just audio and visuals, because I can't fully and clearly explain the differences every single time. Next game we have on Steam is called Area 8. It looks like garbage. It's 40% for $6.59. It's a top-down twin stick shooter with like a boomerang, which that kind of looks like an interesting thing. The developer who's releasing it has released several other games, none of which have ever gotten any kind of ratings, because I doubt many people bought them. Let's see, charge. We do this and this, yes. Next game we have is a game called Son of a Witch, which is an action-adventure beat-em-up roguelike. Looks like it's a bit of a side-scroller too.
I will purify the fallen.
The graphics don't look great, and it's the only game from this developer. It is 91% of 45 reviews positive, however, for $14.99. I would say that the graphics are just kind of not my taste. They feel like they're slightly low in quality, but they're actually pretty good for what they're going for. Which would be, I don't know how you describe this, as what the reference words would be. Apparently it was an Indiecade game. There's only 4 negative reviews. Yeah, unless the negative review says too long, didn't read. Unless you're really into these type of games and you're tired of Castle Crashers, which arguably I should be playing Castle Crashers and covering that, because this does look like an example of a game that is just a clone of Castle Crashers. Let's kill this one. I wouldn't recommend this game, especially since it costs more than those games. And 2 other reviews say the game should be free to play instead of $15. So do I believe them? The small minority that says the games are bad? Or do I wishlist this because the vast majority of people say it's good?
I wonder.
I think I've got to wishlist this one. And we'll check back and see as more people buy it and play it, whether they think it's a good Castle Crashers-esque game or whether it's a bad one.
Job done.
Next article we have from Gamatsu, Black Clover Quartet Night Uno trailer. Yeah, we don't really need to see that. How did I have time before to watch trailers? Hey, boy, do I not have time. How did I get so flooded with news? Black Clover Quartet Night is due out on PS4 and PC in 2018 in Japan. In Japan only, it's going to be released for PS4, so it's kind of coming to the West, I guess, on PC. Let's see. Open Critic had an article, which is interesting because Open Critic doesn't have very many articles about the Hitman Definitive Edition, which includes
I wonder.
pretty much everything that you would have gotten had you bought the season pass and everything. Let's see, play this, I guess. Play this. Should have waited.
Job done.
In return. PC Gamer has an article, Divinity Original Sin 2 Definitive Edition is coming in August. Do we have an exact date? See, this is weird because I think I may have the Divinity Original Sin 2 original version. I may have gotten it for free, so it doesn't matter, but if there is a definitive edition of an older game, I would like to get the upgrade for free or a discount and not be beholden to buy a newer version of a game that I haven't even played before.
My hand is too full.
Travis came on the chat, says, "Hey Rydo, how have you been?" I've been doing pretty good. This week has been the beginning of an insomnia bout, so I've been streaming starting around 6 in the evening, and that's been a slight problem. I've been playing Lego Star Wars The Force Awakens and banging my head against the wall trying to get it to run at least moderately well on my PC, because the Lego games on PC in general just don't run. We've all gotten into gotten the sad news that the pinball arcade tables are going to go off sale probably forever on June 30th, so the Steam Summer Sale that happens mid-June for me will probably just be spending $200 on pinball tables and nothing else. And I've shifted my streaming to mostly covering nearly every game that comes on Steam. So right now I just have a ton of tabs, even though I've been streaming for 3 hours now of games to talk about and video game news. E3 is coming up. I plan on streaming that and doing slightly different than last year when I streamed E3. I don't think we'll be playing Hearthstone at all. I think instead we're just going to just watch the streams, and I may very well be taking a little bit of notes when that happens too. I Let's do that. That. Play this, I guess. Yeah, a lot of stuff happening. Travis says, "Sorry, I've been gone for so long. It's been so busy lately." Yeah, that happens. I've lost 2 or 3 people that were getting on the chat nearly every stream. YouTube has gotten really bad in the past couple of weeks about not sending out notifications to people. I know people get tired. I know people get busy. It's important for YouTubers certainly to remember that their audience is either going to school or going to work or doing something that in their lives brings up something that makes it difficult to watch their streams. And I stream only on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and I know other streamers are streaming every day. Some streamers only stream only once a week. Inherently, if YouTube was promoting my content and I had more subscribers, I've gotten a couple subscribers in the past week, but if I had 4 or 5 times the amount of subscribers as I did, and they were sending out notifications to all those subscribers, there would definitely be at least a handful of very recognizable people that would be on every chat. But sometimes it's just nothing, which is fine because there's plenty of news to talk about. It's always very nice to have fans come back on the chat and say hi, even if they've been gone for a while, because of that. Also, the general feeling I'm getting is that people are getting tired of Hearthstone. So I could more and more, it's the Hearthstone streams is more about just the news than it is even watching me play Hearthstone, which I was never very good at in the first place. Moving on though, as I'm trying to get through all this news, defend the original sin. We'll deal with that, I guess, when it comes out. We already talked about Beat Saber selling 50,000 copies in its first week, which is quite a lot considering it's a VR game. We already talked about this cheap Chinese game. Gamasutra has an article, opinion piece probably, more dirty coding tricks from game developers. Their last article irritated some players by giving out tricks like, oh, sometimes we make the health bars not look the way they actually act, so it feels like you have less life than you actually do, and we make it feel artificially dramatic. So I might read that article, but it's certainly not right now. Gamasutra has another article, The Myth of Monomyth, which this is a blog.
The scourge will devour all.
Yes, this is a story writing idea of writing a single character as the only important character in a video game, I think is what Monomyth is. I would argue, as I'm playing LEGO Star Wars The Force Awakens, if I'm rather critical about some major mistakes it feels like they made with Episode 7, although I actually haven't seen the movie of Episode 7, so I'm criticizing the movie from the perspective of how it was shown to me through the LEGO game. But it does feel like Rey was given way too many abilities in the video game, and way too many abilities probably in the movie. She seems to be able to use the lightsaber, use the Force, use the Jedi mind trick, fight with a staff. In the LEGO game, she has the ability to be agile, which lets her climb walls and run alongside walls. She also has a level of cunning and strategy and the ability to fly the Millennium Falcon, and also she in the Lego game shoots Han Solo's blaster, which gives her another ability to use blasters. It's like 5 to 8 abilities in the Lego game, where most characters only have 3 abilities. It makes her feel like a Mary Sue, if that's the right way to use that term. It certainly feels like if episode 7 had been more like the Goonies and there was a group of 5 scavenger orphans on Jakku that all got on trouble and all escaped on the Millennium Falcon, that would have been better. It doesn't feel like Finn as a character gets enough development in episode 7, and then episode 8 certainly causes problems for anything set up in episode 7, so episode 9 probably is going to be a pain. But I'm talking about Star Wars, and I do not have time right now to talk about Star Wars, particularly since I haven't even seen any of the movies. I saw Rogue One, and that was about it.
Engaging TC-130, mental dislocation.
Let's see. Game Sutra has another article revealing regions. Prey 2's Locktown. This is talking about the development of an area called Locktown in the original Prey 2, not the Prey reboot. That it has nothing to do with the original Prey game. So that's kind of a retrospective article that's not really mattering. I shouldn't have used this ability. If I hadn't done that, I could have played this. I'm moving too fast. I'm trying to rush through things. Let's see, next game we have on Steam is called Casual Penalty. It's like a soccer penalty game, but it looks like garbage. It's 40% for 59 cents. And I've gotten down to the point where I'm just saying, if a game looks like garbage, just take my word for it. Go look at it yourself. I'm not going to describe how it looks like garbage or why it just is an extremely low quality game. Moving on. The next game we have on Steam is called Potion Explosion. It says it's a strategy casual game. It's a puzzle match 3 game, and arguably I would say a lot of the screen is being taken up with parts that aren't the puzzle match 3 element, and that seems like a mistake. It's from a developer who's made a couple other games, but none of them have gotten any reviews.
What to do?
It's $9.99, and there's no reviews for this too. So Potion Explosion might be an interesting match 3 game, but it's way too expensive, and there's really no backing behind it. And there's another $6 DLC, by the way, for the game before you even think about buying it. They're also, the same company is coming out with a VR game called The Tale of Pirates: A Dummy Mutiny that looks slightly more interesting, although it is still the very standard stand in one place and shoot things being thrown at you, or shoot things coming at you. And it's a VR game, so it doesn't matter, really. So I'll ignore Potion Explosion, I guess, if it comes back around and somebody reviews it and says it's a good game. I'd give it a chance, but until somebody gives it a thumbs up, I'm not willing to give it time. Next game we have is a game called Fury Race, racing action destruction game. Doesn't look terrible, but it doesn't look great either. The graphics are low quality. It's from a developer who's made 5 other games, none of which have been reviewed. That is a terrible indictment for the Steam store, is that you can have 5 games you've released on Steam and nobody has played them enough to give them a review. It also kind of is a problem though with developers flooding Steam really quickly with 5 games that they've made. Let's see, is that the case in this instance? May 14th, April 3rd, May 16th, May 25th. Yes, 4 of these games all came out in less than a couple of months. So this is more than likely an example of a developer releasing some mediocre games. There's much better racing games on Steam, so Fury Race is not one worth considering. Next game is called DIY Machinery, which looks like garbage. It's developed by me and published by me, just the letters ME, so the person didn't even fill out the information correctly, and somehow Valve doesn't look at any of that information apparently, and there's no way to flag a developer. There desperately needs to be a way to say, look, this developer, not just the game he's created, but this developer is doing things wrong. Your Gamer has an article that's called "We Are Living in a Golden Age of Video Game Music." That is another article that I might read. Man, I'm piling up articles that I have no time to actually ever read. PC Gamer, US Senate votes to restore net neutrality, but will it pass the House? This was from 7 hours ago. So, so I guess it still has to pass the House. And frankly, anything and everything can happen, and net neutrality is going to consistently be in a dangerous position until it is blatantly solidified that into law that it can't be revoked. Like, what we need is not an order countermanding a order from the FCC. We need a law from the Congress that specifically says net neutrality is a federally applied right that cannot be revoked by an agency's oversight or rulings. Moving on, PC Gamer has an article. Google has rolled back a Chrome update that broke web-based audio for like games and videos. Eventually, I think it will roll that update back in some form or fashion. There's no way in Chrome's attempt to get rid of annoying auto-playing video and audio ads that we're not gonna see Chrome try and block that content by default. Next game we have on Steam is called Monstrous. It says it's an early access action violent adventure fighting game. Yeah, it's an over-the-shoulder third-person perspective hack and slash-esque game. It looks a little bit empty, but it's got a nice polish on the buildings around. It's just that the wide open streets seem a little too wide and a little too open. Has an all-time peak of 4 people, early access 32 achievements, so it's not anything crazy there. Like, it's 1 positive review and 1 negative review. Let's see what the negative review says. It says, wow, I thought I found a hidden gem with lots of cool influences, Moonstone, Vampire Bloodlines, but instead I found a very low quality alpha game with a great amount of potential. Game has a good setting, cool characters, but the melee based game for the for a melee-based game, but the melee is clunky with all characters. There's hardly any animation, even at an alpha for animation. Like jumping roof to roof feels empty, and it's not fun due to no sound and bad animation. And oddly, that's the second game today we've heard that just does not have sound in sections. The other game being Little Witch Academia, having just no sound. Monstrous is from a developer who's made nothing else. It's 10% off for $17.99. I cannot, even though it looks kind of good and it's like a first step, I can't wishlist or approve recommending this game, which my wishlist, I guess, is half an actual wishlist and half an approval or a slight endorsement of games. Although arguably it's not an endorsement of games, because it's very possible I'll wishlist a game that's total garbage just to play it to show off that it's total garbage. PC Games In has an article. Valve are hiring. I guess it should be Valve is hiring writers and level designers for top secret new games. I guess you don't really need to read anything more than that to think, okay, like, we'll see if those games get finished, because that's the #1 concern. Valve has had the intention to make games always. It's a matter of delivery. PC Gamer has an article, the games of summer 2018, the biggest PC games releasing in the next few months. Let's see, Worlds Adrift, State of Decay 2, Dark Souls Remastered, Moon Lighter, Agony, Street Fighter 30th Anniversary Collection, Cultist Simulator, Elder Scrolls Online Somerset, Vampire, that's VAMPYR, Warhammer 40k Inquisitor Martyr, Jurassic World Evolution, you probably skip that one, The Crew 2, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, and The Banner Saga 3, Death's Gambit, World of Warcraft, Battle for Azeroth. It is going to be a busy summer. Pro Evolution Soccer 2019, and potentially Wargroove, Crackdown 3, Memories of Mars, and Space Junkies. That is quite the list. It is going to be a long summer if you're trying to play a lot of games. Let's see.
No walls can hold me.
We already talked about Omen Sight. There's a game called Super Pillow Fight, which it's, I guess, kind of what you would expect. It's a fighting game with some weird characters. Like, generally, I would think if you were going to make a game called Super Pillow Fight, you'd be filling it with all female characters and nothing but female characters fighting each other. But I'm looking at a snowman fighting. So they've gone in a slightly different direction. There are definitely some girl characters, but they're not particularly anime-esque characters. They're 3D realistic animations. There's a penguin. I don't think the animation's particularly good. Nor do I think the backgrounds are particularly good. It's like they were working on a fighting game and they realized they couldn't do it. This Super Pillow Fight game is 20% off for $7.99. It has one user review, and I would bet it's negative. Nope, it's positive. As a concept, as kind of a joke game, not a fake game per se, but just as a joke game, I would almost approve of this, but in its actual visual presentation, it doesn't look interesting. In fact, you'd be much better just playing the game that is coming out in a few months, which is... what is the name of that game? I can't remember the name of it. There's a cross-tag, Blaze Blue cross-tag battle or something along that lines that is just all the female characters from, I think, the Blaze Blue series that's coming out, that looks a lot better, a lot smoother animation, a lot faster. And I think you would have a more interesting experience than playing a poor clone of that game or similar game. Gamasutra has a job listing for Digital Extremes. They're hiring a senior lighting artist. That would be in London, Ontario, Canada. Which I assume London is a city in Ontario, Canada. I don't know. Like, what's weird about a lighting job as a lighting animator, I don't even know what classes you could take in a generalized college to end up as the lighting animator for a game. It seems very much like a super specialized career field, to the point of needing to go to a very specialized school just to be able to compete. There we go. Do I want to kill one of these guys? Yeah, let's do that. Let's see. We already talked about Bulletstorm developer People Can Fly opening new UK and Poland studios. I'm still very uncertain. I don't think they've given any hint as to what AAA shooter they're making for Square Enix, but they definitely are making a AAA shooter for Square Enix. I should play this first. Let's see this. And then this, and then this. Might as well attack in the turn. There's a game on Steam called Building Block Heroes Rush Edition. It doesn't look good, and as I'm trying to rush through games again, I'm just gonna close it without doing any more research than that. And I'm feeling like I didn't start my timer. Yes, because yeah, we've been going for an hour and I didn't start my timer, which means I should be wrapping up right now or breaking it up into another recording. Alright. Let's do this. Did I win? No. One short. There's a game called Slumball VR Tournament, and it seems like it's just playing wall ball in a dirty hallway-esque environment. It's a VR game. It's free, so I guess you can't complain about the can't complain too much about it. Apparently there's a online tournament available on the website, so this is some kind of scam. It seems like where if you get in the top score of this game, you'll win a gift card. That doesn't seem right at all. That seems like something Valve should keep an eye on.
I will
not allow.
fight with honor for Doomhammer.
This is from a developer who's made several other games, none of which have gotten enough reviews to even be rated. Whereas their free game with a suspicious gambling aspect to it, or maybe not even gambling, maybe just sports prize tournament aspect to it, is rated positively. Gamasutra has an article, mobile games continue to drive the rising online game revenue for Tencent. So expect Tencent, as it expands into everything, as basically a branch of the Chinese government, expect it also to push further and further into mobile games. Here's a game on Steam called Sand Made. It looks like you're presented with certain groups of puzzle pieces, and you have to see which pieces mix into each other and match. It's basically a one-screen Unity game, as best as I can tell. It's 10% off for 89 cents. It's from the developer who also made a game called Hidden Paws, where that looks like a slightly more interesting game too than Sandmade. However, I don't want to be overly critical just because I'm under the clock. And I feel like even as a one-screen Unity game, this is actually doing something I haven't seen done before. This feels like an actual puzzle game and spatial recognition game. And the price does feel right at 89 cents. It has 10 simple levels to learn the rules and 90 increasingly challenging puzzles, according to the description. It has 1 5-star recommendation, which is to say somebody just put 5 stars in the review, because there is no star system in Steam. So I'm gonna wishlist Sandmade, and I'm going to wishlist Hidden Paws, because it looks like a game where you do something interesting. It's like a 3D hidden object game. Interesting. I've always wanted to see how that would work, and this is an interesting twist on it. So I'm gonna wishlist that one too. Cyan, the creators of Myst, because of their 20th anniversary collection Kickstarter, has been putting more things on their YouTube channel from old content, showing how they made old things, like a discussion on the creation of Myst 3, Exile Myst 3, and just they're making a lot of the director's commentary type content that fans of Myst, including myself, are gonna want to see and be interested in. So following the Kickstarter, even though it's already been funded, seems to be really the right thing to do, or just follow them on Twitter. Gamasutra has an article, Sony is winding down production of all physical PlayStation Vita titles.
Ready, sir.
So if they are winding down the production of physical Vita titles, that means they will eventually also shut down the e-store for Vita titles, and they will eventually stop making any kind of repair or replacement parts for the Vita hardware itself. So the Vita is dead. We kind of already knew that. It's really just kind of a matter about whether Sony is going to try to replace the Vita with any kind of portable device to compete with the Switch. Maybe they will, and maybe they won't. Here's an article that would probably get me upset, so I don't think I'm going to really read it, but Rock Paper Shotgun has an article that says BJ Blazkowicz and the need for more diverse Jewish characters. I don't think there's too many Jewish characters at all in Wolfenstein, or if they are. I think the entire thought was that most Jewish characters had already been either forced to hide their Jewish identity in the world of Wolfenstein or been outright exterminated, because there was this is a futuristic world where Nazi Germany had succeeded in taking over the world. Moving on, Gamematsu has a trailer for Touhou Ginsu Wanderer Reloaded. It's a roguelike RPG from NIS America. It's coming out July 17th in North America and July 20th. Unfortunately, the video got taken down, I guess. That's a shame. So, any hype I could have had based on that is gone. Nothing on that. Gamasutra has an article about hitboxes and hurtboxes being programmed in Unity, as far as how you're going to program fighting games in Unity, which is Unity really the right engine to make a fighting game? I kind of question that. I don't know if Unreal is any better for a fighting game either. I think you might need some custom code, but maybe you can do it in Unreal or Unity. Let's see. Back into the game. We're slowly grinding up, trying to get to rank 20 before the end of the month. Gamatsu has an article for Super Neptunia RPG that's coming to the PS4 and Switch this fall. Let's see, September 27th in Japan. And in Korea, it will be released both for PS4 and Switch on the same day. So when is it actually coming to the West, or is Korea now considered the West to Japanese people? Let's see. Well, I guess there's no more data to extrapolate from that article. Another RPG is coming to the West. For as many as get planned to be released in the West, I've yet to see them all come out and really have any success. There's too many RPGs, I think, even for the Japanese market at this point. PC Gamer has an article. The Daily Show host Trevor Noah confirms Battlefield 5 reveal is coming next week. I don't even really know who Trevor Noah is. He's like the uninteresting replacement for Jon Stewart, I guess, for the Daily Show. I haven't even thought about watching a Daily Show episode in probably a decade. But my heavy suspicion he's not doing anything amazingly funny. Next we have a game on Steam called Stay, and it's indie action, violent, story-rich, choices matter game, but it looks like MS Paint graphics. There was something about this game that had my attention, or people were talking about it on PC Gamer or something. See, let's look at the user reviews and see what that tells us, because it's 20% off for $9.59. It's
What to do?
let's see, reviews, 11 positive reviews for this point and click story-rich emotional story is what they're describing it as. So I guess I'll continue to wishlist Stay because people are telling me that it's good, even though visually it doesn't look that good. That's certainly a difficult hurdle to jump. Next game we have on Steam is called Star Cats, which is a local multiplayer only game, competitive co-op. It was an indie casual action game. And it really is just, I think, a 4v4 player versus player top-down fighting game where you're playing as cats. And it's $10 right now, $10.49.
What to do?
Let's see, do this. And then do this. Kill this. There are no reviews for this game yet, and there's nothing about this Star Cats game that catches my attention other than it's very colorful, probably to a drastically detrimental amount. It's just like impossible to see what's going on the screen, and since it's local multiplayer only, you're also having only 1/4 of your screen taken up per character. Let's see, there's a game called Hube Seeker of Achievement. It has 5,000 achievements. It's a fake game. Achievement. Idler. Let's see, there's a game called Machilla Villain. That's MACHIAVILLAIN, all one word, which says it's an indie strategy game. Let's see.
I wonder.
This is called and run. Kill this guy. It says Machilla Villain is an evil mansion management and strategy game inspired by Dungeon Keeper, Prison Architect, and horror movie cliches. Build your own manor, raise your monsters, set up traps, and exterminate your victims. Gain reputation. Now, I definitely do love Dungeon Keeper, and they've named something that has my interest. I would say the graphics for this game look a little poorly animated. Invader Zim-esque, is that the right reference to use? This has 877 players playing it though, and it's 20% off for $15.99. And so what is the review ratio? 23 positive, 5 negative. How can it have so many people playing it? First not recommended review says the grind to get anything done is ridiculous. I do recommend this game. The next not recommended says, I do recommend this in the long term. It's already fun even though it's clunky and feels unfinished. Next review says, rather simplistic game. Instead of building and designing an awesome house of horrors, 98% of your time is spent on gathering the resources and refining for a second tier in a workshop. I spent 4 hours trying to get a wall with a saw blade, which is one of the few buildings that can deal damage. I'm not impressed with its damage. You need 2 or 3 or so to kill a basic victim. That's a shame. That is a shame. Like, this looks like an interesting idea, but I don't know if I trust it to actually be a good game. Or maybe it just knew the right things to say to catch my attention. The other game from this developer is called Freaking Meatbags. It's very positive at 87% of the 54 user reviews. And in Machaville is 78% of the 23 user reviews.
Can escape my fury.
For Doomhammer.
I guess I'm going to wishlist this, but I'll definitely need to remember to look at the game. Pretty much any game I look at, I wishlist, I'm gonna have to go back and double check and make sure things haven't changed, that there hasn't been an update that made the game a lot worse, or perhaps that I wishlisted a game that needed things to change, and thus there's been no improvement or patch to the game since its initial release. Since I'm covering games, for the most part, on the day they're released, there is always the opportunity for them to get better and worse. PC Gamer has a article, relaxing exploration game Shape of the World is out June 5th. Let's see what this trailer looks like. Alright, it's an interesting, kind of relaxing, crazy, you'd say almost walking simulator, but I think there's a little bit of interaction, so it's there. It was kickstarted back in 2015.
I wonder.
So I'll go ahead and wishlist Shape of the World and see how it is. PC Gamer is pretty bad about talking about kickstarted games, particularly while also being bad about talking about games that aren't out yet. Here's a game on Steam called Nova Wing 3. It looks like garbage. It's from a developer who's made several other side-scrolling shooter games, and the animation's not terrible but not great. And it's 74 cents, so if you like side-scrolling space shooter games, this might be one to think about, but still not very visually appealing, so I would still heavily suggest considering something different. Next game we have on Steam is called Space Blaster 8-Bit, which looks terrible, and it's just an Asteroids clone. Let's go and close that. We don't need to go any further. The game Indivisible has been delayed to the first half of 2019, according to Gematsu. So that's good to know. That game, I believe, is coming out to the PC, the PS4, Switch, Xbox, and Xbox One. And it's from the developer 505 Games, who's looking for people to work for them. Unless I'm wrong about all of that. So another game delayed. I wouldn't be surprised if a significant amount of games get delayed right after E3 happens, as the AAA developers flood the time slots and indie developers go, oh no, we cannot release our game when Call of Duty is coming out, we'll get destroyed. Giant Bomb covered the game Floor Kids, which is available on Steam. It is a breakdancing music game. It looks pretty good. Now, arguably, if I was to try to play this, I would still probably ruin it and maybe not even be able to make it to the end. But ignoring that for a second, it does definitely look like a good game. 15% off right now for $16.91, which I would argue that price is probably not going down for quite a while. And there is a famous musician who has made all the art and music for this game, so I'd recommend it. To be fair, the Floor Kids is the first game that this developer has ever made, and if you buy the soundtrack edition, you're paying $22.01. I think you might be, if you ever think for a second you might want the soundtrack for the game, you might be better off doing that, because if you don't buy the soundtrack edition, then you're going to end up paying $8.99 for the DLC for the soundtrack, which would be a couple dollars more expensive right now. But for me, I'm definitely going to wishlist Floor Kids, just for the variety and the fact that it's different. Let's see. Next game we have on Steam is called Towards the Pantheon. It looks like a RPG. And unless RPG Maker has put out a new version to update its graphics a little bit, this is the third or fourth game that looks like it could be an RPG Maker game, but it just doesn't have what I come to expect as far as the graphics quality. So I'm not sure what to take from that, really. Does it mean it's not an RPG Maker game and it's just an RPG made in its own code, or does it mean that RPG Maker has changed things? Regardless, it still looks like a cheap, low quality RPG, and I'm not gonna wishlist it. It's $14.99. 2D RPGs. You've got to compete against, like, Zelda games. You got to compete against the best of the best. Let's see. This developer also has, let's see, they're releasing Towards the Pantheon now, but in October 25th, 2017, they gave a game for free called Towards the Pantheon Escaping Eternity, and that is rated 88% positive. So I would guess that that is a prequel or demo that would be worth checking out before spending any money towards it. And that's all that developer has made. Playing these. I can't attack the guy behind there. Gematsu has an article, high-speed, momentum-driven brawler Speed Brawl has been announced for the PS4, Xbox One, Switch, and PC. Interesting. Let's see, they have a Steam page already. Speed Brawl from a developer who's made one other game called Big Action Mega Fight, which is 77% positive for $1.99. So as I quickly go through this idea sounds interesting. Kind of like a Smash Brothers where you get more damage because you're moving faster.
I wonder.
Let's see. If I do this and then just echo it forever, I guess that would be the right move.
Job's done.
Yep. So I'll definitely wishlist Speed Brawl. No release yet, so that'll be a game for another day. And I'll also
My hand is
wishlist
full.
Big Action Mega Fight,
Smart
which is
move.
more of a
I concede.
side-scroll brawler game. But I like the animation style, it seems pretty unique. And let's keep on playing. Like one more game. I've still got so many things. I'm gonna have to make a decision here. Valhalla, spelled VA-11HAL-A, is coming to PS4, Switch in Q1. We don't need to cover that. There's a game called Hero Go. Oh, I remember playing this on mobile. This was an interesting game. So interesting, like
with honor.
well, I played a game very similar to this, so this could just be a clone or ripoff of that game, which is fine by me. It's a English and Chinese language game, so it very possibly is just a clone or ripoff. But I'm gonna wishlist this. It's basically what this game is Snake, except for you collect heroes, and each hero in the chain of the snake-like line has a different type of attack. And then there's kind of a clicker aspect to it where you upgrade the attack and defense of your characters. And assuming this stays at $1.69 and doesn't have any microtransactions, I would like to have a PC version of the game, although you know it's not really going to play very well without controller support.
The light protects me.
This developer hasn't made anything else on Steam, so can't tell if it's a clone or the original, but I guess I'll have to just wait and see. Alright, end the turn. Next game we have on Steam is called Spheroid.
I hope you like my invention.
It's from what looks like a developer that works for Fox, like Fox Media, but maybe it's not. Maybe Fanatical Fox Creative is just a somewhat similar name. Spheroid is a ball rolling around game. We've seen a lot of ball rolling around games in our lifetime. I'm sure everybody's seen a few of them. They're easy to make in Unity. They're easy enough to flip assets and make look sort of interesting. The big push here in the description is to say, yeah, you've seen games like this, but this is going to be different. It's early access, it's $10.99. Don't make me laugh. Forget it. You're not going to pay $10 for a
You shall not
ball game. It's a rolling around ball game. Here we have a game called Montero, M-O-N-T-E-R-O. It's a action RPG game from a developer who has made one other game called Raylist that was released January 25th, 2017 and didn't get any reviews. And how can we fix that? As the ultimate question with Steam is, how do we fix Steam so that games get reviews? So you even have a clue to know what to do. There's one positive and one negative review. The not recommended review says, played for about 5 minutes. If you have a few hours to sit and read all the books and figure out how to play, then it may be worth a try. But with limited gaming time, not really worth it to me. Reminds me of the vanilla RuneScape Lite version. And see, the description of this game seems to be like somewhat card based in its RPG, but maybe not. With that one negative review, I'm gonna have to cruelly reject Montero. It just doesn't seem like it's It's, it's special enough. Here's a game called Mountain Racing on Steam that looks like garbage. It looks like a mobile game. And in an effort to save time, I'm just going to close this out there. Next game is called Horizon Chase Turbo. It's animated a little bit better, but it still just looks kind of like a mobile racing game. However, it's rated very positive, 99% of 101 user reviews. So either somebody has paid for 100 positive user reviews, or this is really, really good. Let's see this. The one not recommended says, I grew up with the original, still owning and playing them was pretty hype. Soundtrack was amazing, gameplay at least looks as like an old 80s 90s arcade racer. Split screen is up to 4 players. The overall I still have the original floppy disks and a working Commodore 64 to play small games like Lotus and Maniac Mansion and Olders. So this game that's coming out here, Horizon Chase Turbo, is based on an older game, and it's a nostalgia play.
Reporting for duty.
Okay, fair enough. That might explain why it's so positive. This developer has also made a game called Ballistic Overkill, which has mixed reviews for an anniversary update. It was mostly positive before. So I'm not going to immediately reject the Horizon Chase Turbo as a game, and I'll wishlist it and think about it, but in all fairness, I suspect I probably will still end up rejecting it. Let's do this and this. Poisonous.
There is little time.
We already talked about this game. Wow, this game, Exella, EXAELLA, got opened up no less than 5 times. Just in my Twitter feed, messing around and showing me the same thing over and over again, instead of showing me
Reporting for duty.
New things. Twitter's got me running in circles looking at the same posts. Let's play this. And let's play this.
The victory is yours.
And then return. Next game we have is called Bing Bong XL. It's rated positively. It's some kind of minimalistic music game. Frankly, it doesn't look very interesting to me, though. So maybe we'll get to rank 21 today. I'm desperately trying to get to the end of the games, by the way.
Thrall versus Jaina.
You asked for it.
I'm very confused as to why this game is being highly rated. Regardless, like, it just doesn't. It's so unappealing visually. I'm just gonna close it anyways. Like, I'm gonna reject the game, even if it is great. I'm willing to miss a hidden gem every now and then, particularly if it's not visually attractive.
None will survive.
Tech Raptor has a review for My Lovely Daughter, which is this weird alchemy game, homunculus game. They gave it a 6.5, so not amazingly great. Let's see. I do want to probably play that at some point, but that is one of those games where I also very well would want to wait till it's slightly on sale. Gematsu has an article. The original Guilty Gear is coming to the PS4, Switch, and PC. Release date not been announced yet. So that's interesting and good to know. We're getting an old comeback. Gamma Sutra has a good article title here. Retirement shouldn't be a myth for game developers. And inherently, I think it basically is a myth right now for game developers. Like, because you just don't make it to retirement. You instead get laid off and then just stop getting hired because you're too old after being laid off. Rock, Paper, Shotgun, Unknown Pleasures, another 5 great indie games. What are these? One's called Cliff Empire, El Tango de la Muerte, Inked, Monster Prom. Like, Monster Prom is not an indie hidden gem by any means. Yeah, this feels like an article written specifically just to promote Monster Prom, which is produced by Jesse Cox, a YouTuber who has industry connections, and so it's literally just cronyism. But I will look at those games. I really shouldn't even have read that article. I skimmed over it. Would have saved me 5 seconds. Next game we have on Steam is called Laser Goat Invasion. Is this a good game, or is this just a extremely low quality game? It's an extremely low quality game that looks like it's a mobile port because of the side scrolling, the black bars on the sides. No discount, $1.99. I have seen enough to dismiss that game. Gamma Sutra has an article, how we increased the review score from a mid-60s to 80s, and was it worth it? This will be an interesting article to read later, but I don't have time for it. That's all I'm saying today is, boy, I don't have time for anything. I'm just behind. And that's generally what I say when I'm talking about recording pre-recorded footage, but now even in live streaming I'm running into falling behind. Gamma Sutra has an article, researchers have taught artificial intelligence the art of interesting level design. Researchers at the Polytech University of Milan taught an AI intelligence how to design and generate levels for the original Doom. Another article that I'll probably look into more, and I'd say if you're interested, look into more. Next game we have on Steam is called DFR The Light VR. It does not look good at all. It's $4 right now with 20% off and requires VR. I'm surprised it even has one positive review.
I wonder.
Gematsu has an article. Big Ben Interactive has acquired Cyanide Studios, which that's, I think, a big deal.
Job's done.
Big Ben's full integration in the game development begins. Cyanide Studios was a French developer behind the games Styx and Blood Bowl. and they're working on Call of Cthulhu, the official video game, and Werewolf the Apocalypse. I think we may have even talked about this article Monday when I streamed. Where is my mouse? We don't need to read that article. Here's a mixed game called Bastard on Steam. You would think that you wouldn't be able to name your game that and sell it on Steam. I close that. Leaks are suggesting Nintendo's Retro Studios is making a Star Fox Racing spin-off. That has gotten covered by a couple other people, but it's probably all from the same first link, so no guarantee that that's accurate, but it is an interesting kind of spiritual successor to Diddy Kong Racing and F-Zero. Bringing Star Fox around to being a bigger property is a very good idea. Like, we don't need to be sitting on we don't need to just get one Star Fox game every 2 or 3 consoles. Even if Star Fox does spread out, although Star Fox has in the past also got turned into a adventure game, beat 'em up game, and that wasn't great either. Here's a VR game that's rated mostly negative, so I don't need to see anything more about that. Simply Trivia is just a trivia pointless game for $5 total. Don't need to talk about that. There's a game called Best Game EU that's clearly just a asset flip. I mean, you can tell just by default, but then how does it have 23 user reviews giving it positive reviews? Well, I guess because it's free, that certainly might be part of the reason. Avalanche Studios is tweeting out about Rage 2. Don't know. Probably need any more information about that. We know it's happening. Here's a game called Mad Frost that looks like it's just pencil drawn on grid paper animation.
I dream and the world
I would say it looks like garbage, and so I'm going to skip it. I swear we are really, really close. There's a game called Righty Tighty XL. No, I saw. This is the exact same game as. This is the exact same game as Bit Blaster XL. Or no, Boing Boing XL. These are just the same games under different names by the same developer. Alright, well, that was the one game I chose to ignore because of it. And they also released a game called Pivot XL that's the exact same game. Flooding the Steam Storm with very, very poor quality products. And I am finally at the Humble Bundle store. Alright. Let's do this. And do this. And do this.
A minion with toss is in the way. Job done.
So, as far as the Humble store, there's a new bundle called Hooked on Multiplayer. And that's all I'm really going to talk about right now.
Is there trouble?
Stick Fight the Game, Rampage Nights, Tumble Store, never heard of any of those. Duck Game, Hover. If you pay $14 or more, you get Rocket League. And then you get a bunch of other games like Besiege I know of, Duck Game I've heard of, but that's over the average of $5.47. The pay $1 and more, or 3 options, seem pretty pathetically bad. By the way, I'd also like to mention that I am recognizing that in the past couple streams I've forgotten to do the secret playlist. If anybody's missing that, apologies. That's part of the part of how my settings are right now to do the Lego Star Wars Force Unleashed game, where it's just hard to see things, to read the screens and open the right page. So I'm back on my Twitter account, and I'm gonna scroll down and try to scroll down really quickly to see if there's any super important things. Digital Devolver is announcing nothing, a game not really worth mentioning. Blaze Blues Cross Tag Battle Ruby highlight trailer, not really interesting. Can I do enough damage right now to... Let's see. Need to kill one character so I can do this. This. And then return. Just really quickly, I'm going to scroll down. And as I'm scrolling down, more games will certainly have come out on Steam. Right now, the European Speedrunning Association is doing their thing. It's certainly not as interesting as Games Done Quick because it's certainly different. Apparently, the Honeypop developers announced a delay for the Spiritual Scouts and shows a new Honeypop 2 character instead. Let's do this. Scroll down. EA confirms the Battlefield 5 will be released next week. No, all logically speaking, I should actually play one more game and just continue the momentum of a victory and a win streak until I lose it. And it probably is going to take me longer than I think to scroll down my Twitter feed. It's a Wednesday, so there shouldn't be too much, particularly as we're just getting closer and closer to E3. But it also could be that a lot of indie games are trying to like announce and get out before E3 happens. That might be the way to do it instead of waiting potentially 6 months after E3 happens. TechRaptor has an article. PC Building Simulator adds water cooling custom cables and adds an Antec to their partner list. I think maybe that game will eventually get good as a simulator to build actual PCs instead of being a video game, which is what they think they're trying to make it right now. Scrolling down Twitter. I already saw this article. Take-Two CEO, legal esports gambling is meaningfully positive for video games. Of course, Take-Two and any big AAA company would be basically drooling over the concept of adding gambling elements. Hit that in the turn. Some more mist, creating a mist behind the scenes things where they're making their mist books that actually play video of the mist game if you kickstarted it. It was a interesting idea, but you really had to put a lot of money into them to get it not worth it at that point. Game Matsu has an article, Punch Club for Switch launches May 24th. Okay. Punch Club is already available on Steam. Of course, when I get information like that, that something is going to be available on a different console, that's a good excuse to play the games on PC and line up my release of content. Let's see, poison. Just kill it. Team YouTube says the issue with comment notifications is now resolved. The issues with channel banners is now resolved. We're still working on comment notifications, was the previous comment they had. I don't know what the issue with channel banners was. Not even sure how many people would have noticed. I guess enough for them to respond. But also, it's important to remember Team YouTuber is kind of really bad about saying things are fixed and then they're not fixed. And the way they phrase it is offensively poorly written. 5 hours ago, Hearthstone aired on my channel. Several other things aired on my channel. I don't think I'm gonna particularly name them all. We're into the Star Wars month, so either at this point you should be seeing some content on Star Wars, and in the future we'll next week will probably be another Star Wars game airing on my channel. Also, Fox and Flock is done, and now Peg is airing on my channel, but Peg also is a pegboard based video game, is only going to last for a few episodes. And then that time slot. Yes, Star Wars The Force Unleashed 2, number 2, aired on my channel 6 hours ago. Most of this news is news I've already seen. But of course, part of the reason why I started so late streaming this evening is because I spent probably 20 minutes going through my Twitter feed before even starting the stream. Your Gamer says Akami HD has a proper release date on the Switch. It's coming this August. Which, again, a great excuse to see if I can have enough time to play Okami. Peg number 2 aired 7 hours ago on my channel, and that was the end of that streak. And everything I'm seeing on my Twitter feed is stuff I've already seen, so I think I'm good to go and wrap this up. Interesting. Planet Minecraft has an Alice in Wonderland project that they're promoting, which would just be a Minecraft construction, not an actual game. at this rate, I might actually make it to rank 20 by the end of the month. And at this rate, I think I might die of exhaustion. Yes, Star Wars The Clone Wars Republic Heroes number 5 aired on my channel 8 hours ago. And LEGO has some Harry Potter brickheads available for sale, which, to be fair, I hate the brickhead series, but at least these look thematically appropriate and slightly interesting. There's just a ton of news, and since so many of those games that I talked about over the course of today were somewhat positive games, something that made it worth wishlisting them and keeping an eye on them, that means the vast majority of the tabs that I was trying to close are still open. So I will have to spend probably at least another 20 minutes copying and pasting names over from my Chrome browser into the Steam app, because the Chrome browser consistently logs you out, and I don't know why it does that, but it does. So I can't just hit add to wish list. I have to copy it to the Steam app, then click add to wish list, which triples if the number of clicks and mouse movements needed, making everything take a lot more time. Of course, that's kind of more of a just personal complaint of being an insane YouTuber who's looking at every single game coming out on Steam. And also, there was a significant amount of articles that I'm gonna have to find some time to read. And also, I've got tons of other things to do too. So, busy. At this point, I'm just going to stop scrolling down my Twitter feed. Like, I was stalling a little bit there just to see if there was something. But, yeah, there's nothing. To my level of satisfaction, maybe every week I am missing 1, 2, 5, 10 games that are coming out by Steam on Steam, but I am getting the vast majority of them, and that's good enough for me. That's gonna be it for this stream. If you're still watching, thank you for sticking it out. Again, apologies for starting late, but I imagine we'll start late also Friday too. That's it for this recording. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe. When you subscribe, please click the notification bell, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, gift me a game on Steam. Or gift me a gift card, particularly since the Steam Summer Sale is about to happen. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.